There are several things that I want us to look at. One of them is when we talk about movement. When you talk about God moves, what does that mean? I also want to talk about the kingdom of God, because remember, we're talking about transition within the context of the kingdom of God. And therefore, if at all, there are many ways that we can push this. We can go into other areas, but I want us to stay within the context of the kingdom of God. Let's talk about when we say that God moves, or when you say that we're in the move of God, what are we talking about? When we say that, we've ever had people saying that, oh yeah, there's a new move of God in the earth, or something to do with God is moving. What exactly does that mean? Please understand one thing: God does not change. The Bible is very clear. It says that God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. God does not change. And therefore, in his own essence, God doesn't need to change, doesn't need to improve, doesn't need to be added anything. So God is God. He lives within the context of his own creation. He lives above it, outside of it. Creation itself lives in God. And therefore, there is nothing that God needs to do for him to improve or to become better. And therefore, when we talk about God moving, we are talking about a totally different thing that I'm going to be explaining. And so, for us to understand transition within the context of the kingdom, there is something that we need to understand is that God moves, but not the movement that we know. Now, in his own realm, and when I say realm, I don't mean that he's somewhere out there seated in his own realm. I'm talking about, because he encompasses creation. Now, when we say God moves, it is us in the earth who needs to understand a revelation of a certain dimension of God. So for us in the earth, because we are limited, or we are within a time, we are limited as human beings. Anytime God reveals himself, or he reveals a certain dimension of himself, when we understand that new dimension, we say that God is moving. And therefore, every time there is a revelation of God, we can say that God has moved, or God is moving. That's why we say it's a move of God. Now, for example, when you talk about in the 1500s, there was the Reformation, or what you usually know as the Reformation. What was that? The Reformation was a revelation of a certain nature of God that God revealed at that time. And therefore, through one man who is Martin Luther, he revealed a revelation, he revealed something, and he said, the just shall live by faith. And out of that revelation, a lot of things were born out of it. Before that, people didn't know about justification by faith. They didn't know what that is. And therefore, God downloaded a certain dimension of himself, a certain revelation of himself in the earth at that time. Now, note this: if you could have told Martin Luther that there is something called speaking in tongues, he would have probably said that either you are a heretic or something, because at that time, speaking in tongues was not revealed to him during that time. But as the purposes of God continued in the earth, there was another revelation that was downloaded by God in the hearts of men, or in the earth. And therefore, that new understanding then becomes a move, or it births a move of God.